I have never ever seen anything like this.
It was like a bomb going off. The bomb went off, boom, one loud sound, building came up, shook a couple times, 12 feet straight down.
Right, well, what city are we talking about? We're talking about San Fernando, Northridge?
Yeah, it's slightly south of Northridge.
In terms of the amount...
As we look out across the San Fernando Valley, there's just smoke everywhere. We can see areas where it's burning.
This is a 16-unit apartment building. As you can see, the entire 16-unit apartment building has been knocked off of its foundation. The building has dropped down. These were carports here.
The magnitude 6.7 Northridge earthquake struck in the early morning hours, Martin Luther King Day, 1994. A holiday, a fortunate coincidence for many who might have otherwise been commuting to work on highways that collapsed that morning.
That jolt, I'll never forget it. It was literally like we were being lifted out of our bed. It was intense.
For Laura Spar, 8 months pregnant at the time, first thoughts were a family.
This was definitely, wow, we need to get a hold of my parents. We need to get a hold of your parents. This is big.
But how to get through? Phone service was out, highways cut off, as desperate scenes like this played out in neighborhoods around Los Angeles. The official death toll of the Northridge earthquake is 57 people. Nearly 9,000 more people were injured. And the amount of property damage was staggering.
The Northridge earthquake was the insurance earthquake.
Structural engineer Janelle Maffei, in the aftermath of Northridge, was tasked with visiting homes, evaluating damage, helping Californians understand the difference between contents and construction.
There's just so much non-structural damage and content damage, and the content damage can look very violent. You know, when you see a kitchen that has emptied out onto the floor, it actually has this violent tendency to it. It's just because your life is completely upended.
The whole entire kitchen was in the middle of the kitchen, everything. And the whole house reeked really bad from ketchup and whatever.
Meanwhile, claims were pouring into insurance companies. Attorney Joe Zuber was working some of those cases.
The insurers were seeing their losses escalate, and because some of the damage was hidden, claims continued to come in over a long period of time, over years, really.
By the time it was over, the Insurance Information Institute estimates $15.3 billion in insured damage. Up until that date, it was the largest insured loss event in U.S. history. Among the hardest hit, buildings like this one.
If you can tell us where you are, please.
This is this Northridge Meadows apartment, and we've been going around the area now for the last several hours. This has to be the worst damage that I have seen anywhere.
The Northridge Meadows apartment complex. It's what's known in the industry as a multi-family soft-story building. To most people, these are just apartments with open spaces, like a parking garage underneath. But to structural engineers, unreinforced, they are dangerously vulnerable to earthquake. And for first responders that day, Northridge Meadows remains a painful memory.
When I look back on my experiences as a first responder during the 1994 Northridge quake, I saw deaths, injuries, and multiple collapsed buildings.
16 people died when Northridge Meadows collapsed. It had been more than 2 decades since the Los Angeles area had seen a significantly damaging earthquake. Suddenly, the risk was real again, and the risk had a picture and a price.
Many of the insurers in California, approximately 90% of the homeowners market, said, you know what? The state of California requires us to write earthquake insurance. We're afraid we're going to lose a lot of money, just like we did in Northridge, if we have to write earthquake insurance. So we're not going to write homeowners insurance anymore in California.
Not only does that leave homeowners at risk, a contorted insurance market means the mortgage market likely won't function properly either, threatening affordable housing, almost as though it had been destroyed by the earthquake itself.
When you go into someone's home, it is all about emotion. It is where it's the single largest investment most people make is their home. And once again, that's where their family sleeps. And it was terrifying.
So the legislature got together and said, what are we going to do next? And what they did next was create this place that I work now, which is the California Earthquake Authority.
CEA. Insurers, if they wanted to, could buy in. For that upfront price, CEA would create earthquake insurance policies for their policy holders, and almost all of the risk for paying claims on those policies would be borne by the California Earthquake Authority. It worked. Insurance companies stopped leaving California and stayed in the Golden State. Eventually, CEA would also start helping residents mitigate their risk, reinforcing older homes and crawl spaces against earthquake, making them sturdier and lowering their policy premiums at the same time. After all, Northridge showed an earthquake in California can come at any time. The Northridge earthquake 30 years ago was a tragedy and a wake-up call. Reminiscent of another type of natural disaster constantly threatening California.
I mean, the parallels are quite obvious and apparent. I mean, there are some other concerns about some other market conditions as well, but many of them are derivative of the concern about wildfire risk.
Whatever the road ahead, it's one where CEA staff take pride in providing an insurance market in California stabilized against earthquake threat. And it's one that benefits from 3 decades of lessons learned since that day, January 17th, 1994.
Absolutely, and I think that the education that we provide is so important. The importance of having insurance, having protecting your home if you has the crawl space. So that's where I think my pride really lies.